For millions of years, sand sat on beaches, deserts, and riverbanks. Humans walked over it, animals slept on it, and the wind blew it around. Nobody knew that this ordinary material would one day become something we use almost every single day. Today, the same basic material is part of the story behind the glass in our windows, the cups we drink from, the bottles we use, and even the glasses some people wear to see clearly. We can find glass in cars, buildings, phones, and countless other things around us. It feels so normal now that we barely think about it. But imagine being an ancient human and seeing glass for the first time. You wouldn't know what it was. You wouldn't know how to make it. You wouldn't even know that the sand beneath your feet could eventually become something completely different. So how did ancient humans discover glass? How did they figure out that ordinary materials could be transformed into something clear, hard, and completely new? The answer takes us thousands of years into the past to a time when humans were still learning what fire could do. Long before humans made glass, nature had already created something similar. Volcanoes can produce enormous amounts of heat. When that heat melts certain rocks and the melted material cools quickly, it can form a natural glass called obsidian. Ancient humans found obsidian and discovered that it was extremely useful. When it broke, it could create very sharp edges, so people used it for cutting tools and other purposes. This was important because humans were already seeing what extreme heat could do. A hard piece of rock could become a completely different material. But obsidian was not the glass we use today. You couldn't make a clear window from it or pour a drink into it. Humans had to discover how to make glass themselves. The exact first discovery is lost to history. We don't know the name of the first person who made glass, and we don't have a record describing the exact moment it happened. What we do know is that glassmaking appeared in the ancient Near East and Egypt thousands of years ago. This happened after humans had already spent a long time working with fire, pottery, minerals, and metals. That part is important because glass didn't appear in a world where humans knew nothing about heat. People already knew that fire could change things. They could take clay and turn it into pottery. They could heat metals and shape them. They could create colorful materials. They were constantly learning what happened when different materials were heated together. Glass became another discovery in this long process of experimenting with materials. One of the main ingredients needed for glass is silica, which can come from sand or quartz. But there was a problem. Silica needs an extremely high temperature to melt. A normal fire would not be enough. So ancient glassmakers needed other materials that could help the silica melt more easily. They could use materials containing substances such as soda, including natural deposits like natron that were available in ancient Egypt. Once the right materials were combined and heated strongly enough, they could form glass. At first, this new material wasn't necessarily beautiful or perfectly clear. It could contain bubbles. It could have a strong color. It could look nothing like the clear glass we know today. But it had something very interesting going for it. It could be shaped while it was hot. Then it could cool down and become hard. That made it completely different from many of the materials people were already using. And people quickly found ways to make use of it. Some of the early glass objects were small. Beads were popular. People also made decorative pieces and small containers. Glass could be colored in different ways, which made it attractive for jewelry and decoration. Imagine seeing a bright blue glass bead in an ancient market. You wouldn't be looking at something that seems ordinary today. You'd be looking at a material that was difficult to make and could look surprisingly beautiful. Glass could even be made to look like precious stones. That made it valuable. But glass was still difficult to make. A glassmaker had to work with material that was extremely hot. They had to shape it before it cooled and became hard. Making a container by hand could take a lot of skill. Then glassmakers discovered a much faster way to shape it. They learned how to blow glass. The idea is simple. Hot glass is placed on the end of a hollow tube. The glass is still soft because it is extremely hot. When the glassmaker blows through the tube, air enters the soft glass and pushes it outward. Think about blowing up a balloon. The air makes the balloon expand. Hot glass can expand in a similar way. With enough skill, the glassmaker could control the shape and create a hollow container. This technique became especially important around the 1st century BC and later spread widely through the Roman world. And this changed the glass industry. Glassmakers could now produce containers much more quickly. They could make bottles, cups, bowls, perfume containers, medicine containers, storage vessels. Glass was becoming something people could actually use in everyday life. And once a material becomes useful, people start finding even more reasons to improve it. But ancient glass still had a problem. It wasn't always clear. Think about the glass in your window. You can look through it and see the outside almost as if nothing is there. Ancient glass could look very different. It could be green, blue, brown, or another color. It could be thick and uneven. It could contain bubbles or other imperfections. So making glass was one challenge. Making clear glass was another. And that difference is easy to miss because modern glass is so good that we barely notice it. When you look through a modern window, you don't think about the glass. You think about what's outside. That's how successful glass became. But thousands of years ago, getting that kind of clarity was much harder. Ancient glassmakers continued improving their materials and techniques. They learned how different ingredients affected the final result. They learned how to create different colors. They learned how to shape the material more accurately. They also found more ways to use it. And eventually, glass started appearing in windows. Now think about what that meant. Before glass windows became common, a wall was basically a wall. If you wanted sunlight inside, you needed an opening. But an opening also lets in wind, rain, and dust. Glass gave people another option. You could cover an opening and still allow light to enter. Early glass windows were nothing like the huge clear windows we see today, but the basic idea was already there, and humans kept improving it.